Hello, and thanks for tuning in to COVID Conversations by way of WNCU here on Zoom. We're using this platform to talk about how the virus is affecting the way that we live today. Dr. John Brown, Vice Provost for the Arts at Duke University, and Trevor Schoonmaker, the Director of National Art Museum, are my guests today for this segment. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey there. Thank you so much for having us.
You both are so very welcome. And we're here today to talk about the work of one of the nation's premier artists and thinkers, Carrie Mae Weems, and her work with Pierre Loving. And they were together to produce the project Resist COVID Take 6. Now, John, first to you, who is Carrie Mae Weems and what is COVID Take 6?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm actually going to LoJack that to Trevor. He has the deeper, longer relationship, and we're happy to partner with them on this event. So I'm going to let him lead on that.
Very good. Trevor, to you.
Happy to take the baton, John. Carrie Mae Weems, as you said, is one of the leading artists and thinkers in our country, and really has been since the 80s. When she was at the height of the sort of emerging identity politics art movement. And she has created work for the last 30 plus years, 40 years, that's been challenging sexism and racism. But really, she's a photographer, and she also mines photographic archives and uses this imagery together with text to challenge basic assumptions and debunk labels. In this case, it's very specifically about the global pandemic that we're all immersed in. And the way that it has disproportionately affected communities of color, really specifically in the US, most notably Black communities, Latinx communities, and Indigenous communities. And this is all reflected in the project, but the way that something that's seen as, by some, not even to be real, by others seen as we're all in it together, it's really not hitting everyone equally. And that is the point, and that this pandemic has shined a light on the inequity within our health system, the racial inequity, and the economic inequities in this country.
Okay, then talk to me, John, about why is it important for Duke University to recognize her work?
Well, it's part of several initiatives that we're doing to be active in the community and in our world. I'll lead with saying that this is an actual unprecedented relationship between the Nasher and Duke Arts, which is the office that I lead, and actually now it's a partnership among three of us, adding Duke Health to the mix, Dr. Eugene Washington and his team. So this is a real statement about collaboration, and the fact that Carrie Mae Weems' work has brought us all together, and really, if I may use the phrase, it's a no-brainer collaboration among us, and there's probably no better initiative that brings the three of us together to put this forth in our community now. And you know, the way this work addresses these issues in our society is it's bold. These are my words. It's bold and daring. When I first experienced the work, it just takes your breath away. I stand and go, wow, that image is just so striking, and it says so much. And where there are words needed, there aren't many words needed. It's just, they are just striking images that get people thinking, aligned thinking, and really thinking about the same messaging. So it's a wonderful opportunity for Duke to do what Duke has always done, that is be here, present, and a forceful community partner.
So in her description of the project, it's called Resist COVID Take 6. She says, we've all been impacted by COVID-19. It's an ecological health crisis of epic proportion and international disaster, and yet we have undisputable evidence that people of color have been disproportionately impacted. The death tolls in these communities are staggering. The fact affords the nation an unprecedented opportunity to address the impact of social and economic inequity in real time. Denial does not solve a problem. And today, that statement, I have the question, how much do you think that this work will move the compass toward actual compliance by people of color to wear masks? And either of you gentlemen can take the lead.
You know, it'd be difficult for me to answer that question. I think when we talk about art projects in general, this is a unique one in that it's an art project that functions almost like a public service announcement because it's in the form of posters and billboards and signs outside in a public space rather than having to go into an art gallery or a museum or a private space, even when those spaces are technically public. You don't have to exit your own physical space. So it's meant to be on billboards and on posters and treated like any other sort of messaging, which is her intent in this critical moment. I would say, artists, I don't know if they have those. I mean, I think that would be amazing if it had that impact, but I don't know if that's necessarily that quantifiable goal is even Carrie's goal herself. I think it's really to first shine the light on the inequity period. Secondly, to open up conversations like we're having right now and have this dialogue, and then have it be twofold. So we discussed, the specific communities that are disproportionately being negatively hit much harder than others, but also to the, more affluent communities, the white communities. They need to hear this messaging because those are the communities that may not be understanding the great inequity and the way that a global pandemic actually affects different communities. So will it have that kind of impact? I'm not sure, but I think the goal of any artist and any art project is to get people to think and at least start talking about the issue at hand.
And I'll pick up on that and to say that there has been left this opportunity for us to step in and think creatively about how we'll present the work and make it accessible. We think about, if you just break it down to the base level of consumers, you think about how we access and consume information. The way that this phased approach of making these works available is just going to be, you don't have to go anywhere. Really, we're making it so that it's easily accessible. Simply driving down any of the streets that come up, if you're driving through town, any of the places where the works will be placed are going to be strategically chosen so that they are visible, that they are widely accessible by anyone who is in those areas.
Okay, and I had the same question about moving the compass toward actual justice for Black and Brown people. How about that, a response to that? Do you feel the same way, that people will see it and then they will be moved by it and maybe not be moved to make critical decisions about how Black and Brown people are treated in the justice system? I would think that was her purpose.
I think, the work in that regard, the work speaks for itself. I believe that it is charged enough, it is provocative enough so that it really meets people where they are. And the power in it is that it can move people to that space. It moves people to, as Trevor said, you find people opening up conversations, you find yourself inspired to think about, what's this about? What message is she really trying to get across? What is it that I can do to be a part of this? And again, I think the way that the team has thought to strategically place these so it catches people where, in the course of their normal day, they might not otherwise give these deep issues some thought. They might not otherwise be moved to stop and see this striking image accompanied by words in some cases, just to go, let me look inward. Person who we happen to be walking together from lunch or whatever it is may be. Oh, wow, look at that. So a conversation begins between those two, then expands to 3, expands to 5, etc. So I do believe that it has the power to do what art does, and that is to challenge us to think in different spaces and open up how we think about things and how we see things.
Okay, so when I was watching the PSA about COVID-19, I felt like I was transported to a mimetic theory of art imitating life. The message is stark. It frankly, it made like chill bumps come over me, and I felt like it was just surreal. So how do you feel? You talked about it a little bit ago, John. How do you feel? I'll go to Trevor first. When you see her work on this project, how does it move you?
Well, I mean, I would agree with John and yourself that it is moving in that regard. I mean, I think having known Carrie for a long time and worked with her for years, her work has had this kind of impact for decades on individuals and on communities, and the way that she's been recognized for it is well documented. But it's different. I think, to your point, it's really different when it's something that is so specific and directed. It's not. It's combining this this loose sort of almost surreal realm of the art into something that is incredibly concrete in a public service announcement, and that is really hard to do. I think she does it effectively because it does elicit those kind of chills. And that feeling of, most of us know people who have been deeply affected. Most of us, unfortunately, know someone who's passed away. And so I think there are very personal responses, and those individual responses can be quite different, just like anyone looking at any work of art. But in this case, I think, for Carrie, she just felt like she couldn't afford not to say something in this case. The consequences are too dire. So whatever the outcome, she had to take the risk and put it out there. And I commend her for doing that.
I want to talk about now how people can experience the work. So I saw the PSA online, but will it be like physical on the National Museum campus? Where can people go to take this in?
Can we take that, John?
Wait, Trevor.
Okay. So
okay, good. Thank you.
The first thing we sort of conceived of was, since the museum itself is closed to the general public, this is meant to be kind of an outdoor, widely disseminated, the way that visual information is disseminated today across billboards, through yard signs, posters, buttons, even bags, just things that she's thought about. What is a way that people don't have to travel to a space exclusively, but also the work itself can travel. So the space that we're thinking of as our quote unquote gallery is the space between the Rubenstein Art Center on Duke and the National Museum of Art. And that's kind of our gallery. So we're having large banners of this imagery that Carrie's created, sandwiching this space, and sort of like, forgetting the exact number, but maybe 5 or so of these images. And then thinking about, also going down Campus Drive on Duke's campus, but also having some of these images integrated into various communities downtown, working with the city of Durham, the county of Durham, a billboard on I-147. But the easiest way and the most organic and natural way to distribute these is what I was saying, through these yard signs, posters, buttons, and so forth. So it's a really malleable project, and it can have tentacles that continue to grow, and it can be phased out over time.
And that's what I meant by the phases earlier, that it's going to have a home base in the space between the National and the movie, and then there'll be another phase where it expands, and then yet another phase where it expands beyond that. And just to piggyback on what Trevor said, it's a remarkable opportunity for people to actually be involved. They can have a piece of this work that lives with them, and then follows them, and they carry it to the next place, to the next conversation, to the next meeting, so that indeed the power of the work has its opportunity to be mobile and reach people beyond what even we conceive of now, because it follows people. So I know we're under lockdown still, kind of, right? So we're not going everywhere that we would go, but the good part of being mobile to some degree is that the work is also that. So where people feel strongly in aligning with the message, a button, a poster, a flyer, whatever it is that a person chooses as their medium, again, the work speaks for itself. All you have to do is have it there. And we believe in the power of Carrie Williams' work in these images. Again, they're just so striking and so provoking that simply opening one's eyes and seeing it will create the opportunity for it to do what it has the power to do, what it will do.
So I'm really intrigued about, the idea of the art following the viewer to wherever they are. But then how long on the actual campus, or how long in the actual area around Duke will the work be available for viewing?
We're still determining that exactly. We know that it will be up through January. We're hoping longer, and it just depends on what initiatives come after that and how things progress. But we know at minimum through the end of January with these large billboards, and then in these banners that we're creating. And we're something like a billboard on 147. You know, that I don't know the lifespan of that, when the next one comes up and you get it from month to month. But yeah, I think in the physical space on Duke's campus, it will be at least through the end of January.
Okay, so is there going to be maybe a social distancing opening for the show? When can we expect for the whole thing to be up and ready to view?
This is a really unusual way of working for us. It sort of came up very quickly when Carrie and I were talking in July, and so normally we would be planning, you know, half a year or a year towards these types of things, and building these partnerships. Everything is put in place before we start executing. So in this case, we're just going as fast as we can to try and meet the moment. You know, in terms of an actual, we're not allowed on Duke's campus to have large gatherings, so we can't do that at the moment. But what we are going to do is have Carrie in a public program, and virtually. And she, you know, she's lectured physically at the Nasher before, at Duke before, but to have her in a virtual program, and we're going to line that up for January. And so, you know, she's, again, because she's committed to so many things, she's pretty booked this fall, but January gives us time to plan accordingly. And like John was alluding to earlier, you know, we partner with Duke Health, and we would really like to have this reach the broadest audience possible. So how can we have a really, you know, unique conversation between, perhaps, if possible, a health official, a doctor, whoever it might be, and an artist, and bring these different communities together in dialogue. So that's what we're looking towards right now.
Okay, I'm really excited about this project. Any last words from both of you before we go?
Again, just want to reiterate that we're excited about coming together and collaborating. Since I've just stepped into the role of Vice Provost for the Arts, I'm really happy to lead initiatives that bring people together. That's really one of the main areas of focus for my office. And for this opportunity to come along when Trevor began to lead the initiative for us to get together, it just kind of evolved and had a life of its own. So I'm really proud of the fact that we've got this amazing work, which again is just a no-brainer, that allows us to work together and really does make such a profound statement in the community. So I'm really proud of that. And I just simply say that I hope that people will take the message that, you know, the pandemics of coronavirus and racism are among the leading things with which we're dealing. And I just hope that people will give themselves an opportunity to be moved by this work and to spread it widely.
Trevor?
Well said, John. No, I'll just second that. I mean, I'm also new to my position, and John said it beautifully. Thanks so much for having us.
Perfect. Thank you both for joining me. I'm Kimberly Pierce Cartwright, and thank you, audience, for joining us for COVID Conversations here on WNCU 90.7 FM.